Good evening, I'm Liz Bishop. Cody's off tonight. Protesters in Albany are speaking out right now about a grand jury decision. First, not to indict a white officer in the death of an unarmed black man in the ruling of the shooting of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri. And now the latest yesterday in the apparent chokehold death of Eric Garner in Staten Island. Dozens of protesters have gathered outside the Albany Police Department. They're calling for justice. That's also where we find Kimberly Howard live. Kimberly, what's been going on?
Well, Liz, this protest actually started outside of the police department, and then just about 20 minutes ago, the protesters actually started marching down Livingston Avenue, down Henry Jansen Boulevard, rather, toward Livingston Avenue. You can see there's sort of a sit-in here now. They're gathered in a circle here calling for justice, calling for peace. You can see there's several signs out here. Police, the police, Black Lives Matter. These are all people here that are from Albany that are gathered to protest both of those national decisions. But the organizer of this protest tells me there's also a very local reason for this. They're actually looking for an organization to police the police here in Albany, an independent organization that would look into matters of police brutality, something that they say has been going on in the city for the past few years or so. The police here are also just kind of managing the situation, making sure that these protesters stay safe, and they're also directing traffic. If you take a look over here at the highway ramp, you can see way back there, police have actually blocked off that ramp. That's the ramp that leads you from I-90 into Albany. So if you have people who are driving home from work at this time, you might want to tell them to avoid the area. You can see that there are dozens of people, probably close to 100, and this is not over yet. The organizer of this protest told me that they're expecting to be out here for a few hours, and they are expecting more than 200 people in all. Of course, will be here as well. For now, we are live in Albany. Kimberly Howard, CBS 6 News.
And we will, of course, be checking back with Kimberly over the course of the next couple of hours. Protesters in Albany are speaking out right now about grand jury decisions not to indict white officers in the deaths of unarmed black men. Of course, the first was the ruling in the shooting of Michael Brown in Ferguson, and now the latest yesterday in the apparent chokehold death of Eric Garner in Staten Island. Nearly 100 protesters have gathered outside the Albany Police Department. As you see, they've been calling for justice, and that's also where we find Kimberly Howard. We checked in with her at 5 o'clock, and we can check in now and get an update on what's been happening since we last left her. And Kimberly, I see you just moved right in front of the camera. What is the latest? What have they been doing in the last?
Well, things have died down a little bit since we spoke with you last time. This protest actually started outside the Albany Police Department, and then all of these protesters marched from there to this intersection. We are at Henry Johnson Boulevard and Livingston Avenue. At that point, there were several protesters that actually sat in a circle right underneath the stoplights here. Police had to actually block traffic that was coming off the highway into the city of Albany because of this protest, and there were several people speaking out, protesting both of those decisions, as you mentioned. But there's also a local reason for this protest. The organizer of the protest tells me that these folks are calling on the Albany Police Department to establish some sort of independent commission to investigate police brutality. Apparently there is a commission at this point, but it's within the police department itself, and so they want a more independent look at cases that may arise involving police brutality. The police are also here as well. Of course, if you look down the road here, you can see that they have blocked off Livingston Avenue in both directions, actually. So if you know people who are leaving work or coming into Albany for any reason this time, you might want to tell them to avoid the area. The police say they're here just to keep the protesters safe and also to keep traffic moving. The organizer said that she expected more than 100 people here, and you can see that certainly is the case. And as you hear behind me, they're beginning to chant once again, no justice, no peace. Really the core message here. They're expecting to be out here for at least another hour or so, and we'll continue to bring you updates online and on here, CBS 6 News.
Good evening. I'm Greg Floyd.
And I'm Dory Marlin. Protests continuing tonight, more than 24 hours now after a grand jury decides not to indict a white NYPD officer for killing an unarmed black man with a chokehold.
The man who was killed, Eric Garner. Tonight, thousands across the nation are rallying against his death and calling for justice. Protesters making their voices heard in Albany right now. Our Kimberly Howard is there live. Kimberly.
Greg and Dory, we're actually walking on Central Avenue right now. This protest has moved from in front of the Albany Police Department to Central Avenue. We're walking away from the Capitol. We just passed CVS Pharmacy and Lexington Avenue. I'm actually here with the organizer of this protest. This is Angelica Clark. Angelica, you're part of a local organization. Tell me what you hope to achieve today.
I am part of the Capitol area against mass incarceration, and what we hope to achieve today is, one, to let people know what's going on, to let people know that we're done, we're not going to take this anymore. We've seen repeatedly murders of people, black people in particular, by police, and there's no recompense, there's no way to deal with that. The system is on their side, and we're out here to say that system has failed and it's not working for us.
This isn't just the national system, you're also calling on the Albany Police Department here locally to change. What do you hope to do?
Well, actually, what we're looking for is not necessarily from the Albany Police Department. What we're looking for is from City Council to change the Citizens Police Review Board that exists here. As of right now, it does not have investigative power. It does not have the ability to fire police who have repeated incidences of violence. And we're here to say that's not working anymore.
And you've spoken to the police department. I saw you speaking with the deputy chief earlier today. They said they're out here to keep you guys safe. What's the relationship been like with you and the Albany Police Department, at least today?
Today, we haven't really had much of a relationship. They've been around us, surrounding us throughout the day, diverting us, as they are right now. That's essentially our relationship today. Has just been one where they're around and we're here and we're not going anywhere.
Thank you very much, Angelica. As you can see, we've turned the corner here. The police are still out here trying to divert traffic, but this crew just keeps on moving. More than 100 people winding through the streets of Albany. We'll, of course, keep you updated as far as where this group goes and what they are able to achieve. We're live in Albany. Kimberly Howard, CBS 6 News.
Protests are continuing tonight, more than 24 hours after a grand jury decides not to indict a white NYPD officer for killing an unarmed black man with a chokehold.
Eric Garner was the man killed in that chokehold. He died not long after telling police, "I can't breathe." And now those words, "I can't breathe," they've become the rallying cry of protesters all across the nation and right here at home.
Yeah, protesters making their voices heard in Albany right now. You see Kimberly Howard. She is there live to tell us what's happening. Kimberly.
Yeah, Dory and Greg, in fact, those words, "I can't breathe," are what was just being chanted just a minute ago. Now they're saying, "Hands up, don't shoot." You can see there's some protesters that actually have their hands raised. They are protesting that decision on Staten Island as well as the decision in Ferguson. This protest has been going on for more than 2 hours now, and it started over in front of the Albany Police Department. It's kind of wrapped its way through Albany. We're now actually headed down Lexington. We were on Central Avenue before, walking away from the Capitol, and at several points throughout the evening, protesters have lied down in the streets. Police have had to block off several intersections. If my photographer move a little over to the left here, you can see that we have some police on bicycles that are blocking off the area as the protest moves through Albany. There was a public calling by the organization that's behind this, the Center for Justice in Albany, and they want this to continue. They say they don't just want to march tonight, they want their message to continue tomorrow and in the weeks and months ahead, and they actually have a couple of things that are going to be planned for tomorrow and for the weeks ahead, and they're hoping that this outcry of support will help move their message forward. We're no end in sight at this point for the protest. It has died down a little bit since it started, but we're still marching here down Lexington in Albany. We are live in Albany. Kimberly Howard, CBS 6 News.